Hello, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Curio. My name is Stefan Ravello. I'm here with my colleague Liz Gillette. And today we're going to be talking about the good problems to have when it comes to your finances. We all know the saying, more money, more problems. We actually see it as more money, different responsibilities. So we're going to just be talking about the things that we've seen as advisors when we deal with new clients, and just kind of some of the events or things that they've experienced that made them think, oh, let me go get an advisor. Let me get a second set of eyes to look at their situation. So Liz, I know I'm just kind of bringing you on here. Please kind of lay the groundwork or lay the framework of kind of the things that we'll be discussing today.
Yeah. Good morning. Okay, so when we started to think about what it looks like when typically a prospective client comes in and says, now's the time, I need a financial advisor. Sometimes it's a major life event. You're buying a house and you realize that you're in a little bit too deep and you don't have enough information to be able to support that decision. Sometimes people want to see the broader financial plan. But realistically, Stefan and I have to take a look at that prospective client and decide whether it's the right time for them to work with a financial advisor or if DIYing is going to work just fine for that client. Believe it or not, we do not take on every single person who walks in our door. It is our job to decide and help them decide whether we're a good long-term fit. So I'll start with an easy one. Sometimes we hear from a prospective client that just came into a large lump sum of money and it has drastically changed their financial future. So an example of that would be an inheritance. They lost a loved one. They received a pretty significant inheritance. The word significant means different things to different people's balance sheets. But let's say a few $100,000, like life-changing money that's hitting you maybe when you're in your 30s or 40s. That is one that we see clients come in and say, can you help me? How am I supposed to handle this? I want to honor the person. I don't want to blow through this money. But frankly, I've never had to worry about money this big. I've just always been able to balance my budget and put some money aside. Another example of that would be if you were involved in maybe a startup organization and you get a major payout that happens during that time period. And you also find yourself thinking, well, hell, what do I do with this? This goes beyond the typical advice of maxing out my 401k as an example. So I'd say number one is large lump sum of money, and suddenly you're wondering what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And when we see those people come in with large sums of money, it actually sometimes seems more overwhelming than when you've accumulated it slowly over time. Because we do a lot of those clients as well. The people that were just the strong savers in their 20s and they're in early 30s, and now they're coming into some success. They're building a portfolio 6 figures, and they're starting to get some real traction. And it's okay. Now I'm at a point where a big drop can really hurt my situation. That's very different than the example that you're talking about of you're kind of just living life, kind of standard, and then you just come into 400 or 500 grand. I'll just throw a number out there of money that you're now receiving, and you mentioned wanting to honor that person, and that's where, and I mentioned earlier, kind of that responsibility when you know that this was essentially somebody else's wealth. It does create that extra, not concern, but the extra need to be very just mindful with that money as it comes in. You definitely don't want to just start blowing it on. I mean, the whole the reason why athletes go broke, or when you hear those stories of a 19-year-old kid getting drafted out of college and coming into, for them it's millions of dollars, so it's a little different. But then it's, I'm buying my mom a house, I'm taking care of my family. They start kind of spread the money all around, and they quickly see that it dwindles pretty fast.
You're allowed to say NFL players. We both know that those studies were run on
Yeah.
NFL players, but I appreciate you not calling out any particular
What's
industry.
for? Yeah, I think it goes around all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's definitely something that we kind of see oftentimes. Usually it's an inheritance when we talk about a huge lump sum, but people just want to, that is definitely a big trigger event for people to think, all right, maybe I need to get an extra set of eyes. And that's what we hope to do. Another kind of piece of that, I'll kind of go more to the second example we use of the person that accumulated over time, is usually what we've seen from those people is they come in and they're maxing out retirement. So they have their employer plan, They might have a 457 as well. So that's just another employer plan that may be offered. And then they come in with a boatload of cash. So their money basically sits in these two buckets: long-term tax advantage accounts, and then they have a savings account with six figures in it. And they've demonstrated the ability to save money, to live below their means. They're doing all the core principles that is required to attain wealth and just have excess money, but they don't know where to put that money. And that may come from a lack of education, and not they're brilliant people. They just don't know financial markets or investing. These things are not taught. I always give the story. I'm a finance student and never learned this stuff. So we don't expect anybody else, or engineers and doctors. We wouldn't expect them to kind of know these things. But they come in with just two buckets. And that's the only way they conceptualize their money. It's just in cash and then in retirement accounts. And they always ask the question of like, how do we like use our wealth? How do we like have tap into our wealth? They'll use terms like that. Like, how do we enjoy the money when it's just checking account and retirement? And if we try to help educate them and talk about brokerage accounts, talk about midterm investing, where we're still participating in the market, but we're not just being as aggressive as you probably would be in your retirement account.
Mhm. Yeah, well said. They outgrow like taking care of the basic needs, right? If you're maxing out of retirement, you're definitely beyond food and shelter and clothing, but you're also checking those boxes of like best laid principles and financial planning. So now you start to think, well, wait a second. Now I have options and I could be saving this for the future. I can be taking more lavish vacations. Like, what should I be doing with these funds? Yeah. Let's go to a category. I'm thinking of this next one as a time period when your expenses go down. Okay. So a lot of people think about when your income shoots up. So I'll give you that easy little softball. I will stick with that analogy, and you can do what happens when your income goes up. But sometimes your big student loan payments finally ended, right? And sometimes that other major expense of daycare just ended, and you're going, oh my gosh, I have hundreds, thousands of more dollars per month. That's a really, really great opportunity to make sure that you're optimizing and you're being mindful of where your dollars are going. Because again, the financial plan can feel easier in some of those phases. You and I know when you're on that debt journey, a lot of times it's more comfortable because you know exactly what to do with your extra dollars. You put it toward your high interest debt, you wipe your hands clean, you go on with your day. It actually gets a lot more interesting and quite a bit more complicated when you're on the other end where that money's available. The only debt that you have lingering around, I mean, if we're going to start profiling these people, is typically you have low interest, home debt and car debt, I'd say, right? Not really credit cards, nothing like that. Maybe a HELOC or something lingering. So I'd say a big change in your expenses going down. Sometimes someone is paying alimony or child support, that goes away. So these major events where you're saying, wow, without even changing my income, I have more money every single month. That is a really good time to revisit your budget and think about maximizing those dollars that are coming through the door for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because as we've seen with our own life, with just walking clients through this, it's pretty easy to have money slip through your fingers if you're not kind of being conscious about it. And we always try to be intentional with when we help clients out. So you're using the example of daycare. And this is one that we often see when that payment falls off. We challenge our clients to the dollar to be able, if they had a payment, it was 1,236, and that's what they're paying each week or month or whatever the case may be. We challenge them to say, all right, now we knew there was a point in time where you were not usually 1,236 because it was going towards that daycare payment. Let's now redirect that towards the investment bucket. So we'll put it on clients sometimes, and it's a little joking around, oh, to the dollar, but it's just to highlight the idea of if you don't do that intentionally, that money's going to slip through. And what was once $1,200 going towards payment now is just going to go towards eating out and towards other things instead of, all right, let's be stewards of our money, and now that we don't have this expense, let's take advantage of that. And that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to, all the people we work with, they would be okay if they didn't work with us. But our job is to optimize and truly making sure that we're getting the best out of their life. So it doesn't mean just making them miserable savers, but just reminding them of their goals and saying, we recall that this was super important to you. Well, this will help you get there faster if you're just able to pivot this little change. So that's what we try to help to do when expenses come off. And then as Liz mentioned earlier, when you get a huge pay increase, that is where that's the quickest way people are I want to get a nicer apartment, I want to get a nicer car, and they it allows you to enjoy life, and we that definitely is something we push people to do, but you want to do it responsibly and not just because if you got let's say you're making $700 extra a month and you got a $600 car payment, you literally just wiped away your raise, and now you have a little extra $100 that doesn't really move the needle for you, and you just squandered a perfectly good opportunity to be increasing your savings rate. So it's always a balance beam of saving more and being responsible with the money, but also your life will naturally inflate. My life I don't have any children now versus when I have children, obviously will be a lot more expensive. So I will have to spend more, but it's just the idea of always being conscious. And that's really just the whole idea of this is being mindful when you're coming into an event or a situation where it's like, should I take a step back and do something differently here? And that's what we try to kind of help people do.
Absolutely. And a lot of times that'll show up in the form of a big pay increase or promotion, right? We've seen people take different jobs and get major pay increases. Certainly during the pandemic, we saw that a lot as people were doing job hopping. And then, we talked about a few sessions back on like equity, right, and ownerships in company. But ultimately, if you find yourself with a significant amount of unvested equity within a company, and again, that starts to get into hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you say, I have these shares, but technically I don't have anything right now. But if I stay with the company, then this is worth money. That's where we can work together and figure out the timing of when those assets actually become yours, when they vest, and how long we want to hold on to them, and how we can manipulate the tax side of things. And really, Stefan, what we're doing is we're giving people a vision of when you can honestly assess that you've outgrown DIY in your finances. Now, of course, we have a vested interest in talking about this because we are financial advisors, but this is the honest to God truth of like, when is it cool that I'm still doing it myself and making pretty solid decisions? And when should I invest in Liz and Stefan and a company like Curio to make sure that this money is going in the right place? I think the final one that I will add is when you start paying capital gains tax. I know that's new for a lot of people. So if you're used to just investing in a Roth or your 401k through work, but you found yourself in like a Robinhood type of situation or E-Trade, and if you actually start to sell out of some of these holdings, nonetheless, simply having them and having them earn interest and dividends, you now have to pay additional taxes on that. So the amount of times that prospective clients have come to us and said, I got this form in the mail, what is this? Especially when they didn't sell anything in those accounts, that happens in taxable accounts, in brokerage accounts. So more money, more opportunities, or however we're rephrasing this. But definitely, if you're playing in the land of capital gains tax, then we also have an opportunity to manipulate your taxes a bit, which is perfect because here you are likely bringing in or reporting more income for those various reasons. So that's where some of our strategies can become really valuable. You want to kick us off, Stefan, and talk to our listeners a little bit about some of these strategies we may employ as people are getting to that next evolution of their financial life?
Yeah, we kind of call it the graduation point. But yeah, so I kind of want to talk on the investment side of things. With our philosophy here at Curio, we believe in a simple investment strategy, and we don't want to complicate things and make it we don't try to get fancy with our portfolio. Oftentimes when someone comes in, and let's talk about a prospect or new client, and they have taken the route of being great savers over time, and they've built up a nice Roth account and a nice 401k balance. When we look under the hood as like how the account is invested, we often see 100% in the S&P 500. That is kind of the most common investment tool that is promoted, and that we're massive fans of, both in our portfolios. But before we got into this industry, we're all for the S&P 500. Is just most people think that's the only investment that you'll need. So they'll come in with a big Roth IRA, and that is the only thing they're invested in. And let's say they're in their 40s. For someone that's in their 40s, and 100% S&P 500 would be inappropriate from a risk standpoint. Over time, your portfolio should gradually get more conservative. So most people, when they're especially in the building phase of their life and they're just in the accumulation phase, They're not worried about taking risk off the table. They're seeing their account go up. They love the growth. They want to pour more gasoline on the fire, which we would agree with. And we believe in that principle 100%. But this still goes back to doing things responsibly. You're still going to have a ton of exposure to the S&P 500. We will never encourage you not to. It's should your whole basket be in there? We would argue no. So over time, as people are coming into just financial success, it's taking risk off the table from an investment standpoint. And the reason for that is you don't need to take on that risk anymore. Like it's like winning the game and then still trying to continue when the game, like although the game is not over, you're on track to achieve your goals. So if you're already on that path, there's no need to continue trying to chase returns like you probably were when you're in your younger phase. And when you're younger, you can withstand a lot more volatility than when you are older. So taking risk off the table is something that we usually are educating our clients about, because they'll usually come in with just 3 funds, very aggressive, which we're all for, but over time, that might not be the most optimal strategy.
I'm going to try an analogy on the spot.
Let's do it.
Typically in client meetings, these don't go well. So I can't believe I'm doing this on a recorded meeting. Okay. So in your example, if they've accumulated money and done well because they've had primarily in stocks, again, we're going to recommend primarily in stocks. We're just saying that you have to be mindful to not overexpose yourself to risk given your goals. Would that be like you are running in a track meet and you're ahead and you're pacing ahead and you are going to win the race, and under all routine circumstances you are going to win the race, but you decide to step it up a notch and you want to have your high, right, your new PR, and then you get injured, and so instead of winning the race and feeling confident, right?
I like it. I like it. The hamstring goes out or whatever. I was thinking fatigue or
Oh, I did it. Finally, I came up with a good one. Okay, yeah. So you wanna recognize that like you're where you're at. The race is against yourself, right? Like you're ahead of the game, you're winning it. You don't have to like shoot for the stars every time, especially if then you're gonna expose yourself to more volatility. That's really what we're ultimately talking about. Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
like that.
All right, I'm gonna give you the next one, and now you have to come up with an analogy.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay. Okay. All right. The next one I would say is as we get to know our clients, we've talked a lot about diving deep, and we do all of these questions and assessments and have these meaningful conversations with clients. We ask them about what matters most to them. We then remind them of what matters most when they're making decisions in their life, right? That sort of thing. Well, sometimes it comes up that clients have charitable giving goals. Or more importantly, maybe they haven't even mentioned the charitable giving goals because they still thought they were at that phase of hustle, 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 hustle. Every dollar they have has to be spent for them and their future. Well, often what happens is as they recognize that they have more money available to kind of pursue these various goals, spend, save, give, as I tell my young kids, they'll mention to us and say, hey, we have some giving goals. So some charitable aspirations. So that's where we can often step in. I know you and I are working with someone right now who's working with the Community Foundation here in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, and deciding what it is that you would like to do in an ideal world. If we could give you the confidence that your financial life is on track through your hard work, not ours, we're just the sounding board with the information to help you make that decision, then our clients can start to pursue avenues to be able to use their money for charitable gifting. And that's where you'll hear those phrases like a DAF, a donor advised fund. That's when someone's toward retirement, they can do a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution. And so it's really wonderful when you can help clients who have that desire. We certainly are not going to push it or instill it. You come to us with your values and we honor them. But it's really wonderful when we can work with clients and say, how would you feel about saving money on your taxes and making the difference you want? And I guess one of the easiest examples that I'll give is for most people, they either have a cousin, in my case, text them and say, hey, do you want to support my sports team? And you toss them some money. Or they look at these causes that they care about and they pull out their bank account or their credit card and then they donate the money. Realistically, there's likely a better way to be doing that. Right? If we're using appreciated stock, if they have invested money outside of a retirement account, it doesn't make sense to take your money, earn your money, have taxes taken out, have that money, then donate it to an organization, you actually would be better off, and the organization would have more money, and so would you if you could use it through something like an appreciated stock. So that's always a really wonderful moment for me when the client comes to us, says they have that desire, and we can feel so good that like the organization is getting more and they're lowering their taxes and everyone can be happy. So I would say charitable giving is always a fun strategy that we can employ.
Yeah, no, and not only is obviously charitable giving a great thing to do just from a humanitarian standpoint, but oftentimes even our clients that want to give, they don't think they can give as much as we sometimes encourage them to. So if they're charitably inclined over the years, that means they have been giving money and been involved in other organizations. Oh yeah, I give $200 here. I give it like, and they give kind of amounts they think is appropriate for their situation at that time. When we could tell a client, you do know you can give $5,000 this year if you wanted to, and you would be in a completely great situation. They're not hesitant to do that. They're just hesitant to like get the sign off that it's okay and be like, oh wow, I actually have that ability in my budget to, I never thought I'd be able to give 5, 10, $15,000, even in excess of that. But giving people the freedom, for some people it's charitably inclined, for other people it just may be spending overall, but giving people the and sometimes they just need our approval to say, am I able to do this? Is this inappropriate? And we're very canned in and being like, yeah, that's a little tight. More often than not, it's go, please take that trip. Or we're even encourage it more. Oh, you want to spend six? All right, you're gonna go spend $8,000 on this thing. So we'll even encourage it on the other side. But that just goes with us trying to figure out what aligns with you and then helping you spend your money only in those facets. Because we want you to live your best life. We just want you doing the things that actually matter to you, not indulging in something that may not be relevant. So whenever we could tell somebody give more and seeing their like fear and excitement and all that is always, it's a great part of the job that we can help people ease up and show them that they're going to be in a good place. Not only is this going to help their tax and all that, and you get individual benefits, you're actually making a difference in the world, and you're just being a good person, and that's independent. Some people think, oh, you have money, and they could see the negative connotation, and money will just kind of inflate who you are. So if you're a great person, it just doubles down on that. It doesn't automatically convert you to being some other power. So yeah, definitely charitable giving is good on the tax side. It's more fun just to see the joy that they get when they're able to do that type of gifting.
Definitely. Definitely. I'll wrap us up with one more because, as always, we could talk about this stuff forever. And we're told that our podcast shouldn't go on too long. Um, my last thing that I would say that we can always toss out ideas with clients when they've hit that next level of success or asset accumulation is we can start to explore real estate. And so for some people, this may look like a second property. Not always that sounds very big and very fancy. Sometimes it's a cabin in the woods in the Maryland kind of DC area, maybe down where you are in Florida. And sometimes it means rental properties. You know, in this day and age of Airbnb and VRBOing and getting creative or having a renter in your space and a separate entrance and door, we've had clients get really creative with ways to explore their housing. We've had multiple clients create an ADU on their property. So within their property, and additional dwelling unit. I might be messing up some of that acronym. Okay. But having an additional kind of housing piece on their property for family. You know, one was a mom, one is a brother. And so that's a really great time to think about what are the benefits of that? What are the tax implications? And then, of course, a traditional rental property if they want to get into that world of passive income. So I think we've done a pretty good job today, Stefan, walking them through what does it look like when you've accumulated some serious savings either through your income, through high income, or sometimes we have clients that just do an exceptional job of keeping their expenses low and they find themselves in these positions. And I truly think this is where we can offer the top value, you know, for them is hopefully this podcast gives people a vision of what does it look like when I've potentially come to this phase that I'm ready to work with an advisor and things are a bit more complicated than what I can find as a best laid practice on the internet.
Yeah, no, thank you for kind of summarizing that. And yeah, because the reason why we wanted to do this episode was this creates stress. Like these positive things do create stress. And some people are sometimes scared to say that and like, oh, I shouldn't be stressed out when I have all these great things happening. But it's no, and it's stress, it's responsibility, but it's warranted. And it's like you've earned that right to feel that way. And it's completely okay to feel that way, to feel the stress, to feel the weight. That means you care. And that's actually a good thing then if you were just like, oh, doesn't matter. I have all this money coming through, then you're spending it all. So just to give people grace that the not having money is hard and having money is hard as well. Both of them are two different types of hards, and it's just you have to pick one. But there are challenges that do come with success, and it's just helping navigate and just having some just conscious thoughts of what may be triggering those things. So
Yeah.
we hope that, yeah, well, I'll kind of wrap it up here. We hope that you guys got some value. If you feel like this is it, that you're approaching this area, if you know people that you're around, they're kind of in their growing phase of their career and starting to experience some of these things, please share this with them. Hopefully they're able to get some value out of it. We post this on all of our social media, so you can find us on LinkedIn, on our website, on YouTube. So please drop a like, follow. All that is helpful to us, and we do appreciate that.
Well said. I think I might have come up with a title for this episode.
Drop it right now.
Okay. I don't know, man. I'm just like, I'm feeling it today. You know what I mean? Good problems that require strategic thinking. I think that's how I would describe it. They're problems though, still, right? They're problems if your money, if even if you repeat what we said at the beginning, those are still quote problems in terms of doing best by your money. So good problems that require strategic thinking. I give it like a B plus. I think we can workshop it a little.
We'll have some
Yeah.
time. So thank you
Awesome.
guys for listening. We appreciate it.
Thanks, gang. See ya.